In my opinion, one up-and-coming Tiger is the best bet to score a touchdown in the Music City Bowl. Let's talk about that and more right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And unfortunately, the Missouri football team has lost one of its best assistants, in my opinion. Want to talk about DJ Smith a little later on the program. And yes, the first round of the CFP was not very entertaining, but I don't think that's an indictment of the entire system. I do have another thought about the system itself, though, coming up on the show. But you know what? I first want to start with, of course, the Music City Bowl, which kicks off here as I record here in just a little under 4 hours or so. So this may be a little bit shorter of an edition of Locked On Mizzou here today. And by the way, I'll probably be getting you the post-game show after the Missouri basketball game tonight with the unusual schedule we have today. But based on how I think this Missouri football game is going to play out, first of all, I think I am picking Missouri to win this football game, but I'm not going to be giving 2.5 points. I think in a game that Eli Drinkwitz has openly called basically an exhibition for Missouri, that's not supposed to be an insult at the game, but I'm just not willing to give 2.5 points in a game where I'm not entirely sure what to expect from either side. Now, I do think Missouri is going to have more of its full component of troops, if you will, of players in here in just a few hours here, more so than Iowa. Iowa, in fact, is going to be without its starting center, Logan Jones, who is dealing with a broken bone in his hand. Also, wide receiver Seth Anderson, and a defensive back all out against Missouri as well. Linebacker Kyle Fisher has some eligibility problems as well and will not be able to play. But Iowa's All-American linebacker are still going to be in there, so it's not as though Iowa is going to be giving up in this football game. And in fact, really the last couple games, Iowa was starting a scout team quarterback. So now that Iowa has its backup for the season, will be back for the Music City Bowl, I just think that's too many factors there to go with to actually give points in the Music City Bowl. So what are my favorite bets? Well, number one, the under. Based on how I think this game is going to play out, I think both teams are going to take their sweet time offensively. Number one, plenty of handoffs. Plenty of, hey, we're going to run the play clock down to about 5 seconds before we actually snap the ball. We've seen this plenty of times in the Eli Drinkwitz era, even in 2024, where Missouri is somewhat content to just play field position, keep the football. I think it's almost going to be a mirror image of what Iowa is going to do offensively. At least that's how I'm expecting it to play out today. So even though the 40.5 total is really low and the lowest on the remaining bowl slate, I don't think they can almost put it low enough over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So to me, that's the side that I really like there, just the under total in general. But as to the anytime touchdown bet, now this one I like because I think there's a little bit of value here. I think Joshua Manning is the correct guy to pick here at plus 470. So you're almost getting 5-1 on a chance that Josh Manning scores a touchdown in this ball game. Eli Drinkwitz said specifically that Josh Manning and Marquise Johnson are going to be stepping into bigger roles in this football game, with Luther Burden out, of course. I just think that Manning is the type of guy that next season is going to step into a huge role for Missouri. I think you maybe see a preview of that. I think when Eli Drinkwitz said, hey, this is kind of a one-off game, an exhibition game, if you will, it's not that Missouri's not going to try to win. I just think that you'll see maybe some more young players in prominent roles like Josh Manning. So to me at 5-1, I think he's a pretty good bet to see the end zone in this bowl game. And if you're an everyday listener, you know I think I thought that Missouri needed to add even more offensive line depth in the portal, and it seems that they have done so. Johnny Williams IV from West Virginia, a left tackle being added in the portal from Missouri. That news breaking this past Saturday. And this is after, by the way, Missouri got another Mountaineer in the portal in Josiah Trotter, son of former NFL great Jeremiah Trotter. So Tigers really plucking guys out of West Virginia, unfortunately, if you're a Mountaineer fan. But obviously the Tigers are fans of that. And speaking of the eastern part of the country, well, it looks like DJ Smith is heading to App State to be their new defensive coordinator. Of course, App State is Eli Drinkwitz's former stomping grounds, and DJ Smith, well, is an App State alum as well, having played linebacker for App State back in the day. So this is probably a great career move for DJ Smith, a guy who, well, was maybe somewhat passed over by Corey Batoon for the defensive coordinator position at Missouri in this last cycle. So interesting to see that this is the moment where DJ Smith has decided to move on, as he's been with Drinkwitz this entire time. He's thought of as a good coach, a good recruiter. So this is a little bit of a blow, I think, to Missouri staff, but seems like a good move for DJ in his career. So congrats to him, but hopefully Missouri will be able to find another capable assistant, and just another thing for Eli Drinkwitz to add to his to-do list this offseason. Fortunately, though, it does look like Kirby Moore is sticking around at the moment. There was rumors that, hey, he could be the next head coach at Washington State. As of now, that doesn't appear to be the case. And by the way, if that did happen, I had some people ask, hey, do you think Eli Drinkwitz might go back to calling plays again? I think that ship has sailed. I really do. Drinkwitz has sort of openly talked about how it just became too much in terms of time management. Forget about what you think about Eli as a play caller, one way or the other. I think simply put, especially in the new world of constant free agency for all intents and purposes in college football, I think it's just too much to expect a head coach to also call plays, etc. I know there are still some coaches who manage to pull it off, but Drinkwitz has said he just thinks it's better the other way. So I don't see him going back in the opposite direction. And coming up, I do think it's unfair to indict the 12-team playoff after one pretty uncompetitive week. However, I think that the last weekend really was an indictment on further expansion of the playoffs. I want to get into that a little bit more and some more Missouri basketball talk as well, including why I think Missouri fans who think Missouri lost because of free throws against Illinois are looking at it a little bit the wrong way, with all due respect. But first, I want to tell you about Rocket Money. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about, or that you were paying for twice? That definitely happened to me. I had some subscription redundancies, didn't even realize it was happening, but Rocket Money made it so easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together all in one place. We're talking subscriptions, spending habits, even your goals for the next year. Rocket Money has more than 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. For me, one of the best features is absolutely that subscription tracker. Like I said, I was able to save about $30 a month just on that alone. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Now, for me personally, this is just my own preference here. I would have gone 8 teams before we went to 12. That's just quite a leap to go to 4 to 12. And of course, now all the talk is, including from my colleague Eric Kane over at Locked On Vols. He was saying, John, you better get over it, buddy. We're going to 14 or 16 in 2026, one way or the other. Well, he's probably right, but that doesn't mean I have to like it, first of all. But regardless, I even though I would prefer 8 teams, for example, I do think it's unfair to indict the 12-team playoff for simply having one off non-competitive week. And certainly there's some tweaks to be made in terms of seeding next season. But I do believe, though, that those non-competitive games, especially by SMU in particular, it just the idea that we need more of those teams, that we need to go to 13, 14, 15, 16, those teams need to be in as well. Based on what? To me, before we've even figured out how to do the 12-team playoff best, I think we should completely table any idea of further expansion. But that's just me. And speaking of another team that, didn't look great in the playoff, the Indiana Hoosiers, Fernando Mendoza, a guy I brought up, the former Cal quarterback I brought up on the program quite a bit. Just in case you were curious, Mendoza did wind up with the Indiana Hoosiers in the portal, so watch for him next season. I had one listener named Tyler, by the way, speaking of the quarterback position, talking about Bo Pribula, who, of course, Missouri ended up with, the Penn State backup quarterback. Tyler says if Pribula's a starter for 2 seasons, I smell Zollers, of course, Matt Zollers, the high school stud for Missouri coming at the quarterback position next year. I smell Zollers transferring out after next season. If not Zollers, someone will most likely move on. Players want playing time. Well, I will say that Zollers and Bo Pribula seem to know each other for whatever that's worth. There's video out on the internet of them working out together, that type of deal. And if Missouri is truly onto something with Matt Zollers, if he's as great as a lot of people think that he is, well, then it's on Missouri to figure that out, number one. If they can't figure out that the guy on their roster is as good as they think he's going to be, and that if Pribula's a good player, but then obviously he shouldn't be blocking Zollers. I just think already people getting worried about Zollers transferring out or whatever, it absolutely could happen, but it's not going to be because Bo Pribula is blocking him. I just think that whole meme is a little bit overrated at this point. And another thing I think is a little bit overrated, listener Devin said, Missouri lost the bragging rights game because of missed free throws. I'd have to disagree with that a little bit, because if your expectations are that Missouri should make 100% of its free throws, well, that's obviously not a realistic expectation. Missouri, in fact, shot 75% from the free throw line in bragging rights, which is right about at their mark of 72% for the season, a little bit better, obviously. I think really the other way, if you want to boil it all down to free throws, then really Illinois won the game at the free throw line by making 22 out of 23. To me, Missouri, yes, some missed free throws down the stretch by Mark Mitchell in particular. Obviously, that was not helpful in a really close game. And if he makes those shots, maybe Missouri does win. But you can also say, hey, get a couple more defensive rebounds, that type of thing. I just think the idea that, well, it's all free throws, it's just kind of easy retroactive hindsight is 2020 type of thinking to me. And I'm just not really into that type of analysis. But regardless, here's something else I think you should be into. Eli Hoff with a really great story at STL today about Luke Bauer, by the way, the Missouri punter, who is moving on from his football career, and a little bit of insight into Luke's life and what he's been dealing with the past couple years. Seems like a great kid and a tall guy as well. You know, I love tall dudes. So tall guy love for Luke Bauer for sure. But regardless, hey, thanks to all of you for joining me here on this quick edition here of Locked On Mizzou. Just wanted to get something in before the game started. And like I said, I'm going to be hitting the Missouri basketball game tonight as well. So your post-game show probably going to be later tonight. I'll see you then right here on Locked On Mizzou.